بسم الله الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. We come to chapter number 6 in the book Kitaab-ut-Tawhid, Kitaab-ut-Tawhid, Haqqullahi ala al-Ibad. And the 6th chapter is the chapter of the tafsir of Tawhid. The tafsir of Tawhid and the testimony, La ilaha illallah. Tafsir, I think the best translation would be explanation. But in reality, if you got this book, especially in English, and you read the translation, you may not understand what the Sheikh is trying to do with this chapter, because he puts ayat without putting the ayat before it or after it to make his point. But this chapter basically is focusing upon the emphasis that we have to understand that the tafsir and the explanation of a tawheed and la ilaha illallah is that kalima contains two rukns. La ilaha illallah consists of two rukns, two pillars. And we mentioned this many times before. We have to know it the way we know our own babies, because it's not complicated. La ilaha illallah has the pillar of affirming, and the second pillar is negation. So you affirm and you negate, or you negate and you affirm. There is nothing worthy of worship except Allah. This is what he's trying to show. That the kalima and the shahada consist of these two things. That you affirm and you negate. La ilaha, there is nothing worthy of worship illallah. And then you affirm except that. And he brought 5 dalils to prove this point. The first dalil, he brought the second part of the ayat, where Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ يَبْتَغُونَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمَ الْوَسِيلَةَ أَيُّهُمْ أَقْرَبُ وَيَرْجُونَ رَحْمَتَهُ وَيَخَافُونَ عَذَابَهُ. That's in Surah Al-Isra. Those whom they call upon, like Isa, the son of Maryam, like Uzair, like the Malaika, those who they call upon other than Allah, those who they call on, they desire for themselves the wasilah, the means of access to their Lord, as to which of them should be nearest. And they, Isa, Ezra, the Malaika, they hope for his mercy and they fear for his torment. This ayat, which is ayat number 57 from Surah Al-Isra, you got to go to the ayat before it, and it establishes what he's trying to prove in this chapter. The ayat before it is the statement of Allah Ta'ala in his command, قُلُ ادْعُوا الَّذِينَ زَعَمْتُم مِّن دُونِهِ فَلَا يَمْلِكُونَ كَشْفَ الضُّرِّ عَنكُمْ وَلَا تَحْوِيلًا أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ يَبْتَغُونَ إِلَى رَبِّهِمَ الْوَسِيلَةَ. So the first ayah said, go ahead and call on those people who you think can help you other than Allah. All of those creation you think can help you other than Allah, negating. They cannot take away your problems. The things that are problem, those things that bother you, hurt you, they can't take it away. وَلَا تَحْوِيلًا. Nor can they change it. They can't change the qadr. They can't change what your situation is. And then the ayat that he brought, those people who you calling on other than Allah, they themselves are looking for the wasilah. They themselves. And this is establishing except Allah. They can't do anything. They're looking for their help with the wasilah to Allah. And figuring out who is the closest to getting Allah's rahmah and so forth and so on, and be saved from his adab. Few things concerning this ayat. In English here, they put between parentheses, الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ يَبْتَغُونَ, those people who they call on other than Allah, they themselves are trying to get the wasilah. The greatest tafsir book in the dunya is the tafsir of Al-Imam Al-Tabari, Ibn Jarir Al-Tabari. It's the best tafsir book in the dunya that we have. He had his own madhab, and it was a qualified, competent madhab. But it went away for reasons, different reasons. The important thing is his tafsir is the best tafsir because he gives the tafsir of the Quran with all chains of narration. So we can go back to who said what in order to establish these things, where sometimes you get tafsir and it doesn't give you any chain of narration. It just makes claims. It is said this and it is said that and so forth and so on. Like al-istihza. There is a hadith that there was a man who made istihza of the Sunnah by taking a miswak and putting it in his backside, akramakumullah. As a result of that, he became pregnant, and then after becoming pregnant, he gave baby, and the baby was a rat. And it's those kind of narrations. And when you hear that, you say, nah, I don't believe that. But when there's no chain of narrations, you know for a fact. And this is a famous narration concerning those ayats dealing with al-istihza. Al-Imam Ibn Kathir and other than him, they bring these narrations just to bring them, not to rely on them. So the tafsir of Al-Imam Al-Tabari is the best one. They said in the parentheses, those who they call on, Isa and Uzair and the Malaika, Al-Imam Al-Tabari mentioned 3 categories that this ayat is talking about. The first one at the top of the list that he made tarjih are the jinn. The jinn. The second one is the Malaika. And the third one is Isa. He excluded Isa because the Kuffar of Quraysh didn't believe in any of that. They didn't believe in Isa like that. But they believed in the jinn, and they also believed in the Malaika. So the Malaika will be asked by Allah Azza wa Jalla Yawm al-Qiyamah, did these human beings worship you instead of me? The Malaika are going to say, Bal kanu ya'budun al-jinn, aktharuhum bihim mu'minun. They didn't worship us, they worshiped the jinn. وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِّنَ الْإِنسِ يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِّنَ الْجِنِّ فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. Those people in the past, there were some men, they used to seek help from the jinn, worshiping them. And the jinn used to increase them in fear and so forth and so on. So Al-Imam Al-Tabari said, this ayat is referring to those people who Quraysh used to ask for and they used to worship other than Allah. Allah negated. They can't do anything. Call on them. You want to, call on them. They won't be able to take any harm away from you. But instead, those who they call on, Isa, Uzair, the Malaika, the believers of the jinn, those who they call on, they themselves are looking for the wasilah. This is important. This is Surah Al-Isra. There are 2 surahs of the Quran that the word wasilah is mentioned. People of a tasawwuf and people who want to make shirk with Allah, they use these ayats the wrong way. Al-wasilah is one of those words we have to know. Al-wasilah means at-taqarrub, something you get close to Allah with. Al-wasilah. Between you and Allah, you use something to get close to Allah. There is a wasilah that is legislated and a wasilah that is not legislated. The wasilah that we can get close to Allah is making salat, giving zakat, making hajj and umrah, making dua, making an adhkar, bil walidain, all of that can get you close to Allah. And then there's the wasilah that is shirk. People get close to Allah by relying on the jinn, using the jinn, calling on and making dua to dead people, worshiping the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This ayah and the other ayah is in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Al-Ma'idah. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu attaqullah wabtaghu ilayhi al-wasila wajahidu fi sabilihi la'allakum tuflihun. Oh, you believe, fear Allah and look for the wasilah. Use the wasilah. We're not against having the wasilah. One of the ways you could do the wasilah is you say, don't forget me in your dua. You're traveling, so don't forget me. So you ask your brother to make dua for you, so you're using that because it's legislated. But that doesn't mean you stop and you don't do anything. You do good deeds and you pay money, you give zakah, you give sadaqah, you do something. You say, oh Allah, I did this thing. So because of this thing, I'm asking you, because of this thing, I'm making wasilah, getting close to you. This thing that I did, I'm asking you to reward me. Calling on Allah by his names. Oh Allah, you are a razaq and you're this and you're that and you're that. So I'm asking you for this. You're the one who helps. You're the strongest, and so forth and so on. As for calling on other than Allah, it's not permissible. So here's the two ayat. So that's the first ayat that he brings. The second ayat that he brings is what happened with Ibraim, the Khalil of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Ta'ala mentioned as he brought it with قال إبراهيم لأبيه وقومه إنني براء مما تعبدون إلا الذي فطرني فإنه سيهديني. Verily, Ibrahim said to his father and to his people, I am free from what you people are worshiping. And I only worship the one who has created me and fashioned me. Verily, he is the one who's going to guide me. Not these false gods that you people are worshiping, and not this stuff that you're on. So this is another one of the ayat that he's proven in this point. La ilaha illallah, to affirm and to negate. Ibrahim said, I'm free of you and what you're worshiping. You negate it. You have to free yourself. Al-bara, you gotta free yourself. He said, I only worship Allah, the one who created me alone. Only Allah. He's the only one who can guide me. He's the only one who can give me health and so forth and so on. This is important. If you look at the book of Allah in the Quran, every single page on that Quran is talking about the Tauhid of Allah. There's not a single page that there is not Tauhid being mentioned in there. Either the Tauhid of Allah's Rububiyyah, Allah's names, His attributes, or establishing worship for Allah alone. The scholars of Al-Islam, like the Imam, Sheikh Muhammad Ibraim, and other than him, Rahmatullah alayhim, they said, the second most mentioned issue in the Quran, the second most mentioned theme of the Quran, the second most mentioned theme after Tawheed is al-wala wal-bara. Al-wala wal-bara. It is the miza. It is the miza. That is the most important miza that makes a distinction between us and the non-Muslims. It is not your prayer. They pray like we pray. It's not zakat. They give zakat and they spend on the poor even more than us sometimes. Not those things. It is being different from them and freeing ourselves from them. It is absolutely mandatory. Ismail, it is absolutely mandatory that we verbally, physically, and mentally free ourselves from non-Muslims. If we don't do that, there's something wrong with your Islam. Your Islam is wishy-washy. If you don't know that is a non-Muslim and I'm different in a lot of things and you don't establish that, then there's something wrong. And there's something wrong with our ummah today. When we're weak, our ummah is weak. And when we are ignorant, our ummah is ignorant. When we're like that, then we compromise this particular issue. So Islam is not against, it is not against us going into agreements with non-Muslims. Islam is not against that. We can go in contracts with them, we can work for them, we can borrow from them, we can do things with them. But we still have to say, and we have to let them know, and we have to Lakum dinukum waliyad-din. You got to let them know that. Does that mean you shout, you're nasty? No. But when they see you, when they deal with you, they know they're not like you and you're not like them. This is one of those ayahs. This is one of those ayahs. And that's why Allah mentioned, and we mentioned this a lot of times when he said about Ibrahim and Ismail. Ibrahim. قد كانت لكم في إبراهيم أسوة حسنة. قد كان لكم أسوة حسنة في إبراهيم والذين معه. إذ قالوا لقومهم إنا براء منكم ومما تعبدون من دون الله. كفرنا بكم. You people have a perfect example in Ibrahim. A perfect example. When he said, him and his people said to those non-Muslims, we're free from you. Negate. We're free from you and what you worship other than Allah. And we reject you and disbelieve in you. So now in the Muslim world, in the Arab world, you have liberal Muslims. You have people who support this nonsense. The Abrahamic faith. We say no problem. We believe Ibrahim, no problem. Ibrahim is the father of the three religions. We say that, tanazulin. We don't want to argue and have semantics. From him came the prophets who brought Christianity, Judaism. So we say, okay, no problem. He's the grandfather. He's the father of those religions because of his connection with those prophets who came with, and all of the religions they came with, it was al-Islam. You don't have a problem with that. As for making a place where we're going to worship, and in that place where we worship, we're acknowledging Judaism and Christianity and Islam, and we all come together, make dua together, make salah together. We say, La wallahi, even us right here today. We travel, and at the airport, they have what they call that room again? The chapel. In there, they have the Bible, they have the place for the Muslims, and they have the place for the Christians. So you have all of that. Am I against using that place to pray? Kalla, wallah, I'm not against that. I think that's a better place to pray as opposed to going and praying in front of all the people where the plane is not being boarded and the people see you praying by yourself. Because you make a shubha, you make people afraid of you. Yeah, you go in that place because where the Muslims pray is the one that's being used the most and it's distinct. But if we had another choice, we shouldn't pray there. We shouldn't pray there. So Ibrahim being the father of the three religions, okay, we'll say that. We agree with that. But we say, nah, in our religion, we free ourselves. This is from the Ojab al-Wajibat. This is something that we have to do. We have to free ourselves from non-Muslims. Doesn't mean we have to be disrespectful and so forth and so on. So that's the second dalil that he brought. I mentioned in this message, I want to test you brothers very quickly, al-Bara'a, Surah al-Bara'a. There's a Surah al-Bara'a. What Surah is al-Bara'a? Surah at-Tawbah, Surah number 9, at-Tawbah. We mentioned this many times. It's called Surah at-Tawbah, the ayat of safe, as safe is in there. That's so abrogated, more ayat than any other, because when this surah was revealed, it was no more turning the other cheek. It was no more of that. When this surah came down, it was, you got to deal with them now. There was a time the Muslims couldn't deal with them. They were weak, so they had to be patient. This ayat stopped all of that. It started off with the statement of Allah Ta'ala, وَبَرَاءٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِلَى النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْحَجِّ الْأَكْبَرِ أَنَّ اللَّهَ بَرِيءٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ وَرَسُولُهُ. Allah has made a proclamation, and the Prophet sent some of his companions. Go to Mecca, go to the desert, go all over and tell the people, Allah and his messenger are free from the mushrikeen. You can't come to the Kaaba anymore after this year. This is it for you. Prior to that, they were still allowed. But when this surah was revealed, this ayat, Rasulullah freed himself from that. And didn't allow them to come to the Kaaba anymore. Why? Making the distinction between the affirmation that only Allah deserves to be worshipped. Nothing deserves to be worshipped but Allah. Now this is the question. Freeing ourselves from the mushrikeen comprises of three things. All of them begin with the letter Ain. Ain. How do we free ourselves from the mushrikeen? There are three things we have to focus on. The letter Ain. Give us one. No. We could seek their aid. We could seek their aid. We could seek their aid. They begin with Ain. Three things. Number one, their Aqidah. Don't believe in what they believe in. We cannot believe in this angels, the way they talk about it, the shaitan, the way they envision it. We can't believe in that stuff. The angels are naked flying around. And when they paint them, they're little white babies that are naked. Can we believe them if they black babies? Can't believe it. That's the Aqidah. Iblis is a fallen angel. We don't believe in any of that. What they believe, Peter, the Catholics, they believe that Saint Peter is at the door of Al-Jannah. And when you come in, get in the door, he's the one testing you and asking you questions. And the comedians are always making jokes about Saint Peter, always. And what's going to happen at the door? Saint Peter, Peter, the saint, wasn't a saint. He wasn't a wali from the awliya of Allah. He was a mushrik that helped to change the dawah of Isa ibn Maryam. So we can't believe in any of that stuff, what their aqidah is. Number two, Ain, their ibadah. We don't do their ibadah. That's why you should avoid going to that chapel if you can afford it, if you can manage that. Like in the UK, their churches are closing down and their pubs are closing down, and the Muslims are buying them, and they're turning their pubs and their churches into the masjids because of the price of the properties and stuff like that. No problem. But going in their places where they worship, there's a masjid right over there, but we don't get along with that masjid. So what we do is we rent the hall of the Christians in their church. So we rent the hall. So because the masjid split, you have those people over there and the other people are using the hall of the masjid. No, man, it's better for you people to stay together and be patient with the situation than to go. And sometimes in the hall, there are crosses there, there are pictures there, and they do the Jummah there, and do classes there, and they do Ramadan there. The Muslim is going to say, nope, we're not going to do that. Splitting is a problem, but going over here in that split, that goes to show you how shadid, the thing that we have when we split. Number three, this one is really important, is their Eid. Their Eid. We don't do any of their Eid. We don't do Christmas. We don't do Thanksgiving. No, not Thanksgiving. Yeah, Thanksgiving, holidays, all of that stuff. Because it's either shirk and kufr or it's a dhulm and fisk and fasad. Dhulm and fisk and fasad. We're going to be a little bit easy, inshallah, with the people. And we say to the people, okay. You want to celebrate your marriage anniversary. Okay. It's not really religious, but what we need that for? Well, we got to make our wives happy because they mad with us all year long. So, okay. But does that really make the quality of our lives better? Sometimes it does from some people, but we don't need that stuff. Birthdays, it's not from our religion. So everything connected to their Eid, saying Merry Christmas, all of that, giving gifts, taking gifts, all of that. That is freeing ourselves from shirk and mushrikeen. Consists of those three things. All right? One more time. Their aqidah, their ibadah, and their Eid. What's one of their ibadahs? The ibadah is going to the church. When Umar went to the church and it was time for salah, the monk said, pray here. Pray here. He knew Umar was a wali from the awliya of Allah. He knew Umar was a person who was an imam. Yuqtada bih. Umar said, I'm not praying here. So that the people after me think I pray and they think that's okay. Umar left the church. That's their ibadah. Also from the ibadah is where we see some people giving da'wah to Allah. And they do that interfaith dialogue. So the Christians say, everybody put your hand up, we're going to pray to Jesus. Oh Lord Jesus, this, that, and you there like this, or holding their hands. Then the Yehud turn come. Oh, Yahweh, this and that, and this and that, and this and that. And you say, Ameen, Ameen. And then when your turn come, you say, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya, and they hold it. They can do that. But we're not going to do that. Lakum dinukum waliyadeen. I don't do that in my religion. They want to get in the line with us. You can't get in the line with us. We're breaking the line. And that happens a lot with African American, our relatives. When a brother dies, their people come to support the marriage or even the wedding. They come to support and they want to get in line to pray with us. We say, no, you can't get in the line. Allah's not going to accept their prayer anyway because they have shirk, all of those issues, the way we bury, all of that stuff, those three things. Okay, Ikhwani, we have to move on. We have to free ourselves from those people. Al-wala wal-bara. How do Muslims find themselves in doubt in regards to the Pope? Where the Pope is, where the Pope isn't, that died. Now the new Pope, his name is Leo. That new Pope came and he made it clear. He said marriage is between a man and a woman. That's it. He said we're not recognizing a man and a man, a woman and a woman. And it caused a lot with them. It caused a lot. So the Muslims say, oh, look at the Pope is good. We say, in that thing, the Pope hit the mark. In that thing. But he didn't hit the mark in something that's way worse than that. And what's worse than that? What's worse than that? There should be that. So, yes, he hit the mark in that thing, but there's so many other things he didn't hit the mark in. Which brings us to the next point that the Imam brought. Point number 3, we're going to go very quick. We're going to speed it up. The ayat of Allah, اتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارَهُمْ وَرُهْبَابَهُمْ أَرْبَابًا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ. That's all the Imam brought. He didn't bring the rest of the ayat, but the rest of the ayat is what proves the point. They take their monks and their priests as lords along with Allah. What is this chapter about? What is this chapter about? What is this chapter about that we're dealing with? What are we dealing with right now? No. What? The tafsir. And the tafsir meaning what? Meaning what? Affirmation and negation. The tafsir of la ilaha illallah. He brought the ayat. They took their monks and their priests as laws along with Allah. And that's it. Where's the affirmation? Where is the negation? It's in the rest of the ayah. That's why if you just took this book and you picked it up like that, you wouldn't understand it. And that's what he means. So a new person who gets this book, he definitely has to read a book that has explanation to it or learned it from somewhere. So the rest of the ayah, it says, اتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارَهُمْ وَرُهْبَانَهُمْ أَرْبَابًا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ وَالْمَسِيحَ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ سُبْحَانَهُ عَمَّا يُشْرِكُونَ. They took Isa, their lords, their monks, as lords along with Allah and Isa ibn Maryam. And they were only ordered to worship Allah alone. They were ordered, they were not ordered to do anything except to worship Allah alone. La ilaha illahu. He is the only one worthy of worship, and glory unto him from what they attribute to him. So that ayat is clear when you bring the rest of the ayat. 2 more and that's it, ikhwani, or 1 more actually, 1 more. No, 2 more, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the 4th ayat, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. That's all he brought. From the people of those people who they make partners along with Allah, and they love those partners the way they love Allah. They love those partners the way they love Allah. And that's it. But the rest of the ayah said, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those people who believe, they are the ones. What's the ayah again? وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. and those people who believe, they love Allah more than anything else. So this is a really important issue because Tawhid, the kalima of Tawhid, has 7 conditions connected to them. All of those conditions have dalil. One of the conditions of a Tawhid is al-muhabba, that you have to love a Tawhid and what it means. You have to love what it points to. You have to love it. And if you love that, by default, you hate all of the opposite. You have to love the people of a Tawhid. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, because of Sufism and things like that, they hate this book, and they hate the man who wrote the book with a passion. And if you are an individual who never ever heard, you're a new brand spanking new Muslim, you never heard of this book, you never heard of the Imam who wrote this book, rahmatullah alayhi, but you were with a group of Muslims who do that Sufism thing. If you're like that, the people will say to you, you are Wahhabi. You say, why you call me a Wahhabi? What is that? They're referring to him. You don't even know him. You never heard of him, nor that you hear of his book. And that is something that's common. A person has nothing. He doesn't even know the book. He doesn't know the man. But if the individual is saying things like that, like I don't worship other than Allah, I don't do this. I saw a thing recently in social media, and I say this not to put anybody down, but it means a lot. There were a bunch of Moroccan people. They were a lot of Moroccans. They were a lot. I guess they were in the Masjid. I don't know where they were, but it was a lot. And they were saying, Al-Maliki, Al-Maliki, or yes to Al-Maliki, yes to Al-Maliki, or Malikiya, and no to Al-Madkhaliya. And they were all saying it was a lot of people. When I heard that, I said, one thing that this could mean is the fitna of the hardcore Salafi people in Morocco are tired. No, it was in Libya. It was in Libya. It was in Libya. And Libya has civil war, fitna and drama in their country. And unfortunately, some of the hardcore brothers got involved in that stuff, and they supported the criminal. It was a problem. It was a problem for the dawah of the Sunnah. It's a problem. I said, it could mean that, but I'm not there, so I can't call it. Another meaning is, like, the person hates Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, because you call him to Tawheed. So the person's understanding is, and Madkhali and Salafiyya is one and the same thing. It could be either this, it could be either that, because the country had to taste the marara of a lot of stuff. And that's why we have to do a better job, inshallah, with the dawah of our community and the people around us. And whatever access that we have to the ears of people, we have to be wise. Not apologetic, shy, embarrassed about spreading the Sunnah Salafiyya. No, not what we're going to be shy about that from. This is Islam. But a Salafiyya is not a hizb and a group of people with a president and we're some football team. It's not like that. It's an idea. It's a concept. And that's our deen. That's our dawah. Last point that the Imam brought, rahmatullah alayhi, is the authentic hadith that was collected by Al-Imam Muslim. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentioned, whoever says La ilaha illallah and he disbelieves in what is worshipped along with Allah, then it is haram that you spill his blood. It is haram that you take his money. You can only spill his blood or take his money by the haqq of al-Islam, where al-Islam allowed you to spill his blood or take his money. He killed someone, so you take the fidya for him because he did it by accident. You take his money like that. He kills someone, you kill him. So affirmation and negation. Affirmation and negation. And we took somewhat of that before in the second chapter, that a Tawheed will give a person protection from the virtues of Tawheed. He'll get security in the dunya, the ahkam of the dunya. If a person says La ilaha illallah, his blood is ma'asum, his money is ma'asum. You can't kill that man in the dunya. And in the hereafter, he gets safety and security. And we mentioned that before. الذين لم يلبسوا إيمانهم بالظلم أولئك لهم الأمن وهم مهتدون. Those people who don't mix up their iman with shirk and kufr, they are the ones who will have safety and security Yawm al-Qiyamah, and they're the ones who are rightly guided. All right, any questions, Ikhwani? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, I want to ask you guys a question, inshallah. The question is, I mentioned one of the 7 shurut of La ilaha illallah. One, which is al-muhabba. And it comes from that ayah. From the people of those who love their partners, their other gods, more than they love Allah. But the people who believe, they love Allah more than anything else. None of you truly believes none of you truly believes till you love me more than you love your mother, your father, everybody and stuff like that. Loving what the Prophet brought, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from what he brought is a Tauhid, al-muhabba. What are the other 6? Al-ikhlas, sincerity, that you're sincere to this kalima. What else? Knowledge, having knowledge about it. What else? Yaqeen, having certainty about it. Good job. Anybody else? Having sidq in it. 2 more. Al-inqiyad, that you practice it. You practice it. So I think that's all of them, right? Al-ikhlas, al-inqiyad, al-sidq. Oh, it's one more. One more. We did al-ikhlas, al-inqiyad, al-sidq, al-yaqeen, al-muhabba. We did one more. Al-ilm. It's one more. Al-qubul. Al-qubul. That we accept it. We accept it. Okay, Ikhwani, we'll stop right here, inshallah. And I have a question. That ayat, the first one that he mentioned, that is said, وَالَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ يَبْتَغُونَ إِلَيْهِ الْوَسِيلَةِ. Those who they're calling on, they themselves are looking for the wasilah to Allah. 2 questions. Who are the 3 categories of people, a creation that was mentioned here? And who mentioned that in his tafsir? And what is the wasilah? The jinn, the malaika, Isa ibn Maryam. And in the book in English, they put Azra, Rosair. And what scholar said this is talking about the jinn? That's the first, that one's the main one. What scholar of tafsir? Al-Imam al-Tabari. Al-Imam al-Tabari. And Imam al-Tabari's tafsir is the best tafsir. Why? He gives all in that chain of narrations. There are other tafsirs. They give chain of narration. Abu Hatim al-Razi. But there's only 1 volume, 2 volumes. He doesn't do the whole Quran. So that can't possibly be the best tafsir. And Imam al-Tabari gave the whole tafsir of all of the Quran. The whole thing. Al-Wasila. What is the Wasila? Al-Wasila. Yeah. The meaning. The means. Like put in between, there's something between you and Allah. What is the wasila that is permissible? Those things that have been legislated. Yep. Righteous deeds. Calling Allah by his names, his attributes. A dua. I can say to a person, make dua for me. I see you as a righteous person. But you're asking him to make dua in something that he has the ability to make dua about. Make dua to Allah to make me from the malaika. Make dua to Allah to make me the last messenger. Can you do that? Can't do that. Can't do that. And also when you ask him to make dua for you, what should you do? What should we do? we should also make dua. We shouldn't just leave it up to him and pay the imam or whatever, the Mulvi Sahib or whoever, and he makes dua and we don't do anything. All right, good job, ikhwani. Good job, ikhwani. And Allah is a'la and a'lam. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.